Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Standard Time. We're off daylight savings now. The time is still the same. It's just being adjusted by an hour. So we do the live show every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific. I just got a notification that Motormouth has gone live. I'll turn that off. Turn off the notifications. 4 o'clock on the West Coast and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Somebody always gets upset that I say East because they say, well, that's not the East Coast. The East Coast is like Nova Scotia. No. Eastern Time. All right, what's going on here today? Don't forget to sign up to Car Cost Canada. Use the promo code Motormouth, become an expert member, and find out what the dealer pays for the car. This is really powerful information. If you're shopping for a new car, there are so few deals out there. You really want to know what kind of value there is in the car when you go into the dealership. So use the promo code Motormouth, become an expert member, and it opens up a bunch of free searches for you. Also, Canada Drives, the sponsor of the channel, they have 100% online shopping experience of used vehicles. So Car Cost Canada is for new cars. Canada Drives is for used cars. Now, a lot of people are having a hard time finding a good used car. So Canada Drives, you can shop online. You can do all your financing online. You can order the car online, and then they bring a truck with the car to your house and drop it off. Sometimes it can be done as quickly as the same day if you just got to have a car. Okay, we have some information about the big infrastructure spending bill that's being pushed through in the United States. Still has to be approved and signed by the president. $7.5 billion is going to be earmarked towards charging infrastructure in the United States. That's a lot of money. $7.5 billion. Also, $65 billion is going towards charging infrastructure. So not charging infrastructure, the electric grid, to take all of this extra need for electric vehicles. What didn't pass, though, was the bill basically stating that in order to get the tax credits, the cars needed to be union made. There was about $4,500 of additional tax money on the hood of an electric car if it was made by a union shop, which worked well for Ford, for General Motors, and for Stellantis, but it didn't work for Volkswagen that has a big ID4 plant in Chattanooga. Doesn't work for Toyota that has no union shops. Doesn't work for Honda. Doesn't work for Tesla, which isn't union. So this really was favoritism to the legacy car makers, but it didn't pass. So that is still up in the air. Also, Tesla announced they're doing a battery gear factory in Brampton, Ontario. The first production outside of the United States and Canada anyway, so that's good news. Okay, so we have, so what's coming up this week on the channel? Well, tomorrow morning when you wake up, there'll be the Toyota Corolla Cross video. We were in Quebec, in the Gatineau, Ottawa, or formerly Hull region of Ontario and Quebec, and we were driving the Corolla Cross there. So the video drops tomorrow morning, so that's going to be out. On Wednesday, we're going to be dropping a Corolla Cross Subaru Crosstrek comparison. So these two vehicles are very closely aligned when it comes to their size, their engines, their transmissions. So we'll get into all of that. And then next Saturday is the Mini 5-door, the Cooper S, which is a load of fun to drive. And this week, we're going to be on the road. We're going to be in Ontario driving, I'm calling it Volkswagen-a-thon. We're driving the GTI, the Golf R, and the updated 2022 Volkswagen Tiguan. So there will be videos on all of those vehicles coming up over the next little while. All right, let's get into some live pictures. Not live pictures, but some pictures. First one up. This was from Ali, who sent a picture in earlier in the year, a red Mitsubishi Outlander that his sister got. And he's been looking at vehicles and basically landed on the same decision as his sister. So he has now two of them in his family, one for him, one for his sister. Next up, this is from Steven. This is winter car is out back. His 88 Wrangler has been stored away for the winter. Next up is Harold with his Thunderbird over on Vancouver Island. Thanks for sending that picture along. And the last one is from Claude Chappelle, who sends pictures in regularly. His son just got rid of his GTI, an '08 GTI, and that is a Honda Civic hatchback with the 2-liter base engine. And speaking of the Civic hatchback, we are getting it in a few weeks. I just got the email from Honda Canada, so that has been booked, and we'll be doing that video in just a few weeks. All right. If you just have to have a question answered, you can always do a super chat and get yours to the top of the queue. And Charlottetown Spud has done just that. Why is there such a discrepancy between automakers when it comes to U.S. and Canadian pricing? A new BRZ or BRZ south of the border, only differs in price by $2,000 for the same trim, while the Civic hatch differs by $5,000 for the same trim. Yeah, and the other thing is, Charlottetown Spud, point well taken. And where is the Civic made? Maybe the hatch. The hatch was made in England, but the Civic generally, I'm not sure where the new Civic hatchback's being made. The old one was made in the UK, but the Civic is made in Ontario, and we're seeing that a lot with Canadian-made cars, like the new Lexus NX is so expensive in Canada compared to the price they're charging in the United States. So this is all done. It's got nothing to do where the country of origin, where the car comes from, or anything like that. Is that these car companies believe that they can push the price of their product thinking they're going to get the pull on it. We were having dinner with the vice president of Toyota Canada the other night in Gatineau, and it came up about the Civic. Now, of course, he works for Toyota, but he said from the numbers they're seeing that the Civic isn't selling that well. And that's because, and actually he mentioned that the Corolla now outsells the Civic. And, well, first of all, they were building down their inventory of the old models and building up the new inventory, but the price of that car has gone way up. So if what you're saying is the price difference is only $2,000, I'm not sure if you're including with the exchange or not, but that's good. There's one vehicle that is the real glaring differentiator in the marketplace, and that's the Stinger. The top of the line Stinger is cheaper in Canadian dollars than it is for the same car in the United States in US dollars. And when you factor in the currency exchange, it's a lot cheaper here in Canada. Now, one thing is, for example, we have signed a free trade agreement with Korea, and we also signed a trade agreement with all the Pacific Rim countries. The United States did not take part in that, so it might be that they still have a duty on the cars, but still shouldn't be that high. Sunjib is asking, can you make a 2021 Porsche Macan e-hybrid video? There is an e-hybrid video on the channel that I did a few years ago, and not much has changed with the vehicle, so you can look at that as a reference point. I'm not sure if there's one available for us to drive, but we can ask. But yeah, there is one from a few years ago. The vehicle would not be that different. The only thing that would be different now would be the price will have been adjusted over the last few years. Okay, Mark Culver is here. I just saw a base 2022 Ford Maverick XL with steel wheels and cactus gray. I think it had the hybrid, a very nice looking vehicle. I'm kind of obsessed with this car. I think that the base model Maverick with the steel wheels looks just so cool. And I would be totally cool with it being a front-wheel drive hybrid because the fuel economy is amazing. This truck gets 5.6 liters per 100 kilometers in the city. I mean, it's crazy good fuel economy. It's got a bigger bed, I believe, than the Santa Cruz. It's quite roomy in the back seat. You can see it's a small vehicle, like, let's not kid ourselves. But it's actually a usable back seat. Now, the inside is really kind of plastic fantastic, but I can also give that a pass because the thing is cheap. So it's cheap, it's a pickup truck, gets amazing fuel economy, and yeah, I don't dislike the looks of it. I don't think it's going to win any beauty contests, but I think that this thing is going to sell like crazy. I think it's going to be an alternative for people who maybe thought about, think about it. This Maverick is probably cheaper than most comparably sized SUVs. So some people will take that as an option. Can you make a 2021 Ford Escape hybrid plug-in? Well, yes, we have it booked. I believe it's the week of November 15th. Maybe not. Maybe a week later. But it is booked. It is booked. It is booked. Don't worry about that. It's coming up. We have another super chat. Early thoughts or impressions on what's being released this past week regarding the MDX Type S. Yeah, I must admit, I haven't read too much about it. I did see the email come across, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time reading about it. I think it's great that Acura is coming out with specialty trims. The Integra is going to be announced any moment now. So the Integra is coming back. They've got the Type S models. Now, hopefully, they're going to have more availability than they did for the TLX Type S, because there is very limited production about that. So my early thoughts are, I think it's great that Acura has it, and can't wait for our chance to get a chance to drive any of these Type S models. I asked about the TLX, and they're just like, sorry, none available. Thoughts on the low horsepower numbers for the BZ4X. Don't always read into horsepower numbers, because for a utility vehicle, this is the all-electric Toyota SUV, it's all about torque. Torque is what you use. Horsepower is not what you need, especially in an electric vehicle. It's all about torque. So let's get a chance to drive it first of all. That's the most important thing. Hi, Zach. Question, how do you tell if a car or SUV has sporty chassis or dynamic? Well, really the way to do it is to drive it and find out if it feels dynamic or sporty. You can kind of look generally at vehicle lines or brands and what kinds of vehicles they typically make. Like if you're thinking, a BMW is going to have typically a sporty or more dynamic ride to it than, say, Volvo. Volvos are usually a little bit more relaxed and so on. So, yeah, you can just look generally, and then you have to just get some seat time and see which one you like. Oh, by the way, repeating the same question over and over does not get it answered any sooner. So just put your question in once. Don't repeat it over and over. Beast gaming doesn't help, honestly. Just once is all we need. You don't have to keep doing it over and over. The American BEV subsidies have the potential to eliminate Canadian car manufacturing. Well, so this is getting back to the big infrastructure spending bill in the United States, talking about for electric vehicles that are made in the United States get a different tax credit, and then the ones that are union made get another tax benefit. So this could really hinder vehicles that are made outside, but also it could run contrary to the new North American Free Trade Agreement. So that's one thing that is being studied right now. Our federal government is sort of putting a red flag up, saying, wait a second, this might be in contravention of our new agreement that was signed with the Trump administration. It could really, but then again, the Americans might just say, screw it, we're going to do it anyway, and then we could be in a long, protracted international trade, not war, but basically you go to a third party, and it can take years for these things to be looked at and ruled on. Meanwhile, manufacturing is in trouble in Canada. The good thing is we don't have any battery electric really production yet. It has been promised for the Oshawa assembly and for Oakville assembly for Ford and for General Motors, but we'll have to wait and see. So it's not all been finalized yet, but yes, it could really be a problem. And then you add on top of that some production, say in Canada, like Toyota, is not unionized. That's another issue. Hi, Zach. Would you recommend a used 2020 Hyundai Kona? It's the first-time buyer BCA. I was looking at an affordable compact used SUV. My budget is $20,000. Well, yeah, I mean, I have no problem with the Kona at all. It's like the best seller in that category. I wouldn't really call it an SUV. It's more like a hatchback car replacement. So it's not big. So that would be my only piece of advice to you, is that try it before you buy it. Because if you're thinking you're getting a real kind of utility vehicle, it is quite small. And to me feels more like a really like just a little hatchback. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's still under warranty. You could probably get an extended warranty if you were worried about that. Peak Time Racing with another super chat. Will gas cars heavily depreciate in the next 3 to 5 years with so many electric options coming out? Thinking of going full electric sooner than later. Well, let's just run through the numbers, shall we? All right, I'll do it right here. What's the percentage you think are electric vehicles sold in Canada? Percentage of the overall market. What percentage do you think it is? And then what do you think it is in the United States? What's the percentage of new vehicle sales that are full electric in the United States? So you guys can all type away, and then I'll come back to peak time racing answer in just a moment. So right away, what do you think the percentage of electric vehicle sales is in North America for Canada and the United States? I would love to hear what you guys think it is. I'll go to another question and then come back to that, okay? Alec McLean. There's a good Scottish name. My wife has a 2014 X5 and would like to upgrade to a 2020. When do you think the supply chain issues in the automotive industry will be resolved and used car prices normalized? Well, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. So we have to get through the chip shortage, then we have to get inventories built up again, and it's going to take a long time for that to happen. So we'll go back to the conversation I had. Now, it's great to have one-on-one contact with a senior executive at a major car, not only distributor, but also manufacturer. So that was Stephen Beattie from Toyota Canada as the vice president, and got to ask him about this and his opinion. Now, looking at it through the lens of a Toyota manufacturer, they believe the worst of the chip shortage is behind. They believe they're going to be able to get inventories back up in the first half of the year. But then you have to refill all of the rental fleets. Now, Toyota isn't big into rental fleets, but other manufacturers. And then, so it's going to take a long time to move through this. A lot of other articles I'm reading are saying at least through the end of next year. So we're in this inflationary period. We are in this time where supplies are tight. Prices, there's a lot of upward price pressure. Is that going to last forever? No. But the bigger issue is getting availability. So somebody that wants to return an X5 off lease and you want to buy one that's a year or 2 years old, well, they have to have an actual vehicle that they can buy. And the big issue we have right now is that people are holding off on their leases, waiting for vehicles to become available. So what I would do is work with the dealer and tell them what you want and say, when one comes in off lease, let me know and I'd like to get one. Now, you're not going to get a deal, but at least you're going to be able to get the car. Okay, so Peak Time Racing thinks that vehicles are going to depreciate in the next 3 to 5 years with so many electric options coming out. All right, so so here's one guess. It's 3% in the United States. Mike thinks it's 1%. AK thinks it's 2%. So this is JC Villa, 12%. Now that is more in line with what the average consumer thinks. They think it's about, 20% electric cars. Peak Time Racing thinks it's 5%. Same with Jimmy, Richard, 2%. 6% for Lisa. Jackie thinks it's 10%. So you're getting the idea. Coco, Chanel, 5% in the U.S., 5% in Canada, 2% in the United States. So the last numbers I saw on this, back to the question, is in Canada, it's running around 3% electric overall. In the United States, it's between 2 and 3%. So do you really think that we're going to go from 96 or 7% of internal combustion engines to 0 in the next 3 to 5 years? I don't think so, because you have a lot of hurdles to get over. First of all is the public perception of these. They're expensive to buy, and charging infrastructure isn't there for everybody, especially in a northern climate like Canada. And then there's questions around resale value and all those sorts of things. Then you get into the availability, like you can't even get a Toyota RAV4 Prime right now. Can't get an ID4 yet in Canada. So yes, there's going to be more available options. There will be more uptake, and we're going to move from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7% over the next few years. But in areas where there are not big incentives in place, electric cars just don't sell. So if you are in a jurisdiction where they have a big EV rebate on the hood, then you get into much higher percentages. For example, where I live in British Columbia, where there's a federal rebate and a provincial rebate combined, then you're getting up to about 10+% of the new car purchases are electric. But you have to also look at the legacy fleet, because most cars that are on the road today are 9 years or older. Okay, so how long is it going to take to get all of those vehicles off the road? Well, first of all, you've got to get to 100% new cars as electric, and then you've got to wait for all of those used cars to age out of the fleet. So we're going to be driving internal combustion engine vehicles for a long time. I'm thinking by 2030, we're going to be around 25 to 30% electric vehicles probably, but that still means a huge percentage, unless governments do crazy things and just basically load people up with money to buy electric vehicles. We've seen it in other jurisdictions. Like, you'd be crazy to buy anything but an electric car in Norway because the incentives are so good. So yeah, I just don't think that people are going to make the switch as fast as everybody else does. And there could be the other problem. There could be too many electric cars and not enough buyers. That's an issue. With every single car manufacturer coming with some kind of electrification, you're going to have winners and losers, right? So some brands will be very successful with EVs. Other brands will not. So those vehicles could be sitting, like, perfect example is that new Mazda, the MX-30, that new electric vehicle that just came out with 100 miles of range. 160 kilometers of range. Trust me, at the end of this year, they will have to heavily discount those vehicles. We have another super chat from Mark C. Hey, Zach, any idea when you'll be driving the Canadian spec VW Golf GTI and Golf R? And how does the Veloster N stack up against them? Well, I mentioned it already. This week, we are going to be heading out to Ontario to drive the GTI, the Golf R, and the new Tiguan. So there will be videos on those coming over the next few weeks. And how does it stack up against the Veloster N? The Veloster N is an incredible machine. Might actually be on paper better all-round performance, little hatchback. The problem is people don't like the Veloster. It's not a vehicle that they want. It's got the goofy 3 doors. It's an odd shape. It's kind of plastic fantastic on the inside. You know, a GTI is still a GTI. It's still, you know, a different kind of level of vehicle when it comes to appeal and also practicality. I mean, the Volkswagen Golf is an incredibly practical car, and you just get it with more power. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be doing that over the next, we're going to record it this week. This is from Slick Ricky Johnson. Why did the Chrysler 200 fail last gen? It seems like you liked it when it came out. Looking at that for my first vehicle, or Lexus IS 200, I would get the Lexus IS 200. I did like it, but it really fell into the rental fleet. That's basically got relegated, I should say, to rental car status. There wasn't anything wrong with the car. I think that the 3.6 liter, the V6 engine was not matched well with the automatic transmission, and they just lost the focus on cars and moved towards utility vehicles, and that's why it failed. You know, American car companies, for the most part, are not car companies anymore. They're SUV companies. Jessica, have you reviewed the Buick Encore GX? Wanted to ask what your thoughts were on the compact SUV. What's the one that we drove? The Encore? I get them mixed up. The Buick... It's going to drive me crazy. What's the small one? You guys can help me out. What's the little one we drove? The little one. I always get the Buicks mixed up. Buick. I think it was the Encore. I think it should... Is it the Encore? Oh, the Encore. Yeah, sorry. The Encore is the Trax-based one. I always get these mixed up, the different Buicks. The Encore is basically the Chevy Trax. I would suggest that you look one up from that. What the hell's it called? Envision. Somebody just wrote. There you go. Thank you, guys. There you go. Jimmy says Envision. Yes, I would say instead of the Encore, which is the Trax-based one, the Chevrolet Trax, move up to the Envision. That's the one that I think is a better vehicle. That new model is, I think, a better vehicle. Now, there is one fly in the ointment, and that is that the Envision is made in China. And some people just can't get their head around the fact that something is made in China. Meanwhile, the camera, my laptop, the computer, my phone, we're surrounded by stuff made in China, but couldn't possibly buy a car made there. But you know what? There you go. So thank you, Jimmy. Envision, I would suggest you look at that one instead of the Encore. And the Encore and the Trax are old now. They haven't been updated in a long time. All right, where was I? So thanks. It's always you guys always bail me out. Hey, Zach, listen to you and got us a Stinger GT Elite. Well done. What a car. Coming from a V8 BMW. Well done, my friend. I think this is a real sweet spot in the marketplace. I'm going to go over it again, why I like it. So Genesis is, you know, the new upstart luxury car brand, and their compact luxury sedan is the G70. Well, the G70 platform is shared with Kia for the Stinger. However, the Stinger is a little bit longer, and it has the liftgate at the back, similar to an Audi A7 or an A5 Sportback. But it has the same platform. It's got the same available drivetrains, and I would argue just as nice an interior. In fact, on that top trim with the Stinger, you can get the full suede dashboard. It looks fantastic. And if you haven't seen the video, Andrew and I did one. It's on the channel from, I think it was in the spring we did it. But that car is an amazing deal. So you're not paying the Genesis price for the G70. You're getting a Kia price for the same product that is bigger, has just as nice an interior, and has a more functional cargo area. The only thing that's different is the Stinger is heavier. Okay, it's about 400 pounds heavier than the Genesis. So it's all about driving dynamics. It might be Genesis, but for me, I think that Stinger is one hell of a car. So congratulations to you. Don't forget to add whether back row climate zone controls or not in your car videos. The only issue we have with that is a lot of classes of vehicles don't have rear seat controls, like compact cars like the Corolla Cross, for example. It does not have any controls. It just has vents. So it depends on the class of vehicle. Should I buy an MDX 2022 or wait for upcoming S1? Or it's up to you. I mean, do you want to have more power? If you want to have more power, then order an S. Wife and I were arguing, please don't argue, over your TRD, your RAV4 TRD video, and saw green and she saw gray. Oh, wow, this is interesting. I kept on saying she is colorblind, but she said it's just color deficient. So you're not colorblind after all. So yeah, we did the Toyota RAV4, what I call the turd, the TRD, and it has this, Andrea claims this mint greeny gray color. I don't see any green in it at all. It just looks gray to me. So I'm with your wife. And it's an interesting car because it's usually men that are color deficient and women not the case. Usually men. So yeah, I get it. Same thing when we're in the car and Andrea says, "Oh, I really like the red stitching," and I'm like, I don't see it. Yes, the Integra is coming up. They're going to do the unveiling November 11th. This is basically LA Auto Show. Okay, so the LA Auto Show is coming up. Andrew and I were invited to go down there with a manufacturer. Unfortunately, we were busy that week, so we couldn't go down. But yes, Integra is going to be cool. Same thing. How many are they going to make, and are you going to be able to get one, right? Love your show and the videos you and your wife produce. What do you think the upper end of gasoline prices could be next year in Canada? Well, there's speculation that we could be up to well over $2 per liter. So it is like when you see this in the United States, people complaining about the price of gas in the U.S., it's nothing compared to what we pay in Canada, and it's nothing compared to what they're paying in Europe, especially now with the energy crisis. So there's going to be there's going to be upward pressure on prices. We're already seeing that. We don't have an appetite to be searching for more crude oil, which is what we need. And then you have governments that are trying to landlock our petroleum resources. So, everybody talks about, oh, we want to save the world and we want to get off carbon, but the news flash is the world runs on carbon. So I have no idea. There's another tax that's going to be coming into effect next year. That's really quite steep. That's going to be an additional carbon tax that's coming. I believe it's at the end of next year. And prices are going to be much, much higher. Zach, you and Andrea rock. Best show on YouTube. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. Oh, back to John's question about fuel prices. So people are always asking about, we want to buy a new car because fuel prices are high. I just want to say one thing. Buying a new car is an expensive way to save money on gas. Buying a new car or getting a newer car is an expensive way to save money on gas. Gasoline is the cheapest thing about owning a car. The number one thing is depreciation. Now, the good news is right now we have a situation where cars really aren't depreciating that much because of the inventory shortage, but this isn't going to last forever. Inventories will start to be replenished. There'll be less pressure on the used car market. Used car prices will eventually stabilize. How long it's going to take, I don't know. I think it's going to be all the way through next year, but eventually prices will start to normalize. So typically getting a new car, especially if you're going to upgrade to another used car, is not a good idea to save money on gas. But if you are going to buy a new car, if your old car is run out of miles and you just can't use it anymore, I believe, my personal opinion is, the fastest way to recoup any kind of savings on a vehicle is to buy a hybrid vehicle. Because the threshold to go from a gas engine to a hybrid vehicle is much lower. So in the case of Toyota, which is the king of the hybrids, for example, a RAV4 is just a couple of grand more to go from a RAV4 gas to a RAV4 hybrid, and you start saving money right away. Very different calculation if you go to a plug-in. If you go to a plug-in, it's a lot more money. So the barrier of entry is much higher to get a plug-in vehicle. So back to my initial thought. Buying a new car is an expensive way to save money on gas. So really think about what you're buying, how long it's going to take to recoup those benefits. And if that's the case, a hybrid, in my opinion, is the fastest way to get that money back. Now, the other thing about hybrids is they're going to be a good transitory vehicle, pardon the pun, to move you towards a new vehicle technology. So you could drive a hybrid for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and there's going to be plenty more electric vehicles with much more range at a lower price in the years to come. So that's my thought on that. I think we have another super chat here. Have you reviewed the Buick? Oh, I think we already covered that one. Excuse me, guys. Where was I again? All right, we get to Beast Gaming. BRZ or Toyota 86? You like bananas or bananas? I mean, it's the same car. It comes down to the packaging and which one you like, but it's the same driveline. It's made in the same factory. It's engineered by the same people. One is badged with a Toyota, the other one's badged with a Subaru, and it comes down to the packaging. There's really, I don't really understand the question. Hello, Zach. Hope all is well. Would you have any reliability concerns getting a Volkswagen ID4 before its first year? We love the car, recognize VW as a car maker experience, but we are wondering. Thanks. Well, there's definitely a point to be taken about a vehicle that is brand new in its first year and the production and all of those sorts of things. So if it's really a concern for you, then maybe not get one. Now just remember this about the ID4. So the first year of production is going to be made, I believe it's in Poland. It's a European factory that's making the ID4 for the worldwide market. Next year, next calendar year, 2022, The Chattanooga, USA facility is going to be online producing ID4s, and other electric vehicles are going to be coming onto that factory. So that is going to be supplying the North American market. So you could look at the reliability of the ID4 in the European market where it's already been on sale to get an idea of how reliable the vehicle has been. So look at reliability that's coming in from places like Germany, from the UK, and so on, because all of the ID4s that are being sold now are all made in that factory. The Chattanooga factory is being brought online now, and production is going to be starting very soon, which is why in Canada right now the ID4 is not for sale. It was supposed to be for sale right about now. The ID4 went on sale in the United States at the beginning of this year, but all of those are being brought in from Europe. The US production is not coming yet. So the question is, first year is going to be European production. So you can get some numbers on that. The real first year of North American production will be next year. So you might have to wait 2 years if you want to bypass not buying a first year model. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a bit of a conundrum because the production is moving. These vehicles, if you're really kind of worried about it, leasing is a good way to go, because if it's not been a good experience, you can always get out of it and move on. Zach, I enjoy your reviews with Andrea. You do on the Sunday show. Do you have plans to review the Nissan Leaf? Nothing right away, but yeah, point taken. I'll put a note down that the Nissan Leaf is definitely being asked for. So there you go. What happened to Nightlife in the reviews? Well, we have analytics for YouTube, and Nightlife came at the end of Questions, Coffee, and Cars. And we found when we looked at the analytics that there was a big drop-off after Nightlife. People kind of thought it was the end of their show. It was the end of the video. And they didn't watch past that. So it really, I don't think people disliked it. It just signaled that maybe that was the end of the video. So that's the reason we stopped doing it. Plus, it was a lot of work for Andrea to go a couple of nights a week at nighttime, basically, and go and shoot these cars. So a lot of work for 12 seconds of video. The actual amount of time that the Nightlife shots were on the video was about 12 seconds. So we thought, it's a turn off for some people for the videos. It takes a lot of extra time to do it, and it's only 12 seconds of the video. So we basically decided we're going to take a break on that for a while. Doesn't mean we won't revisit it, but right now we're taking a break on it. Isn't the 100th Civic, last time I heard, was being made in Allison, Ontario, which is close to Barrie? I don't know what you mean, the 100th? 100,000th maybe? I'm not sure. But it's made in Allison, Ontario for sure. What I was getting at is I'm not sure where the hatchback, I believe the hatchback was made in the UK. Hello, dear Zach. Greetings from Lima, Peru. What are you looking forward to when you were reviewing? And what are you looking for when you're reviewing a new model? Well, it's kind of interesting because when you do this a lot, and I've been doing it next year, by the way, 1992, it'll be 30 years since I started reviewing cars, which means I've had a new car to drive every week for 30 years. And then in the last 2 years, since Andrew and I have been doing this, we've had 2 cars to drive per week for the most part. So actually in the last year. So right now we're on track to review and drive over 100 different cars a year. So it's very different. If you drive your car to work and home and you run your errands with it, you might drive your spouse's car once in a while. You might drive your mom or dad's car once in a while. You might rent a car once in a while if you go on vacation. So your exposure to driving vehicles is maybe limited to 3, 4, maybe 5 cars that you drive in a year. So for us, we get to drive this in the last year. We'll have driven over 100 cars. Okay. And in my case, I've driven thousands of cars over the last 30 years. So for us, when we get in a car, we can see the main things that bubble to the surface pretty quickly. You get a sort of a spidey sense for what is good and bad. The feeling of the car, the power of the car, the sound of the car, the features of the car. These sorts of things become obvious right away. And one thing that I would always say is, like, if you put somebody in who doesn't drive premium cars regularly, and then you put them in any premium car, was a BMW, Mercedes, an Audi, whatever it is, a Lexus, a Porsche, they would be kind of like a bit overwhelmed by what's in one of those cars today. If you put them out of, their 10-year-old car and put them in any modern luxury car, they'd be like, what the hell is this? It's like a spaceship. But when you drive these sorts of vehicles on a regular basis, you kind of get used to it and a little bit jaded, and it takes a lot to impress if you're driving 100 cars a year. So I would say it's just got to be, you got to put the miles on. You got to drive all the different cars. You got to get exposed to all the different brands. Got to get exposed to all the different available kinds of drivetrains and what's out there to kind of know what you like and don't like. So I think that's all I can really say. John, I have a friend looking for a new or gently used SUV with a max budget of $35,000. She travels a lot on highways and gravel roads. What do you recommend? Thanks. Well, John, I'm not sure where your friend lives. In Canada, if it's Canada, go to canadadrives.ca and you can type in SUVs and the price budget and all of the vehicles available in your area. It's available here in British Columbia, in Alberta, and the GTA of Southern Ontario. Other provinces and jurisdictions are going to be coming online. So if you're in Canada, that's one place that she can look, and then you can fine-tune your search. So a used SUV travels a lot on the highway and gravel roads. What would you recommend? So I'm not sure if you're thinking something that's really got some real utility to it. A used, let me just think here. I always go back to the RAV4, but the thing is, it's kind of noisy on the highway. What else could we go for? I got a used Jeep Cherokee, Grand Cherokee. Going to be great on gravel roads. You could go for a Toyota 4Runner, but horrible on gas. That's a tough one. I'm trying to think of small SUVs that don't have CVTs, that don't have, that aren't too noisy. Chevy Equinox is a very comfortable vehicle. It's very quiet, and you can buy one of those fairly inexpensive. That's actually a nice car on the highway and is inexpensive. A Ford Escape with the 2-liter EcoBoost engine is fantastic on the highway as well. So those are some to think about. But the usual suspects, I'm just trying to give you options for cars that don't have a CVT. But if it is a CVT, then maybe a Subaru Forester. That might be one, especially for gravel roads. What are your thoughts on the Mazda hatchback compared to the new Civic hatchback? Well, Stephen, we get the new Civic hatchback in a few weeks. What I would suggest is that the Mazda hatchback is really quite small, and the Civic hatchback is really quite roomy with a big back seat, lots of cargo space, much more open cabin, all of those sorts of things. So yes, you get the option of having the naturally aspirated engine and the turbocharged engine. Same thing with Mazda. You get the naturally aspirated engine or the turbocharged engine, but with a very different kind of philosophy in the way that it delivers performance. So the Mazda engine is more like a torquey bottom end kind of feel to it. It was designed for SUVs, and the Honda is going to be delivering a more peaky kind of performance that's going to be livelier and a little racier and a little bit more fun. So Mazda small in the back seat, Civic is going to be roomy in the back seat. One has a good bottom end grunt and torque. The other one is going to be a little bit more boy racer. So stay tuned for the video. It's going to be coming up here in the next little while, and we'll give you our thoughts on it. Just going to get to our super chats here. Lots of people piping in here tonight. I love it. I love it. Lots of people online. It's good. This is a super chat. No question. Just a donation to the channel. For that, I say thank you. Anybody else have a super chat? We can definitely get your question answered. That way it's guaranteed that we get to it. Okay. Just want to go through while I'm trying to figure out where the hell I was. Oh, I found it. So tomorrow, the Toyota Corolla Cross drops. That's tomorrow morning when you wake up. That video will be live. And then later in the week, we're going to do the Toyota Corolla Cross Subaru Cross Track comparison. They're very similar in sort of size, engines, transmissions, different attitude in the way they drive. So make sure you stick around for that. At the end of the week, we're going to have the Mini 5-door. A lot of fun. Loved it. Great little car. And while we're that's coming up this week. They're all edited and uploaded and ready to go because we're going to be on the road this week driving the GTI, the Golf R, and the Tiguan. Here's John asking about the Corolla Cross. It's getting a hybrid in 2023. Why didn't Toyota just bring it to North American market now, since it's being sold as a hybrid in other world markets? I think it's going to be a slightly different power plant. So the 4-cylinder engine that we get in Corolla Cross is only for the North American market. So that's the D4S 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. So it's probably, we asked the question whether it's going to be front-wheel drive hybrid or all-wheel drive hybrid. We're thinking it's going to be more in line with the Lexus UX, built on a similar platform. So yeah, they just decided to stagger the introduction. JC, looking for a good replacement for a 14 Range Rover Sport with 185,000 miles. Any suggestions? Range Rover Sport. I would look at a used Porsche Cayenne. Incredibly reliable if you get one that's been well looked after. And you're going to get good, especially if you get a turbo or a GTS or a Cayenne S. If you're looking for one of those, that would be great. That's what I would get. Willie Tom, 17 Elantra, 17 Corolla, 17 Civic. What's your pick? 17 Civic. You know why? Because we have a 17 Civic. The 17 Corolla, if memory serves me what year that switched, didn't have independent rear suspension. The Elantra doesn't have independent rear suspension. The Corolla does. And that makes a big difference in terms of ride. That car also, I believe in 17, most models had the advanced safety features. Like forward. That's the reason why we bought a 17 Civic, because it was the year where most models had forward collision warning, autonomous braking, Android and Apple. A lot of nice features. Like every time I drive our Civic, we have the LE. I can't remember what the trim is. Anyway, it's the sort of middle grade one without the leather. It's a great product. I really like it. I have no problem recommending it. Hola from Venezuela. Nice that you're here. Mike Marin, watched your review of the Kia Sorento PHEV, considering for our next family vehicle, wondering what the drive performance is like in pure electric mode. What was the acceleration like? Well, it's not earth-shattering. It's a family utility with 3 rows. It's very smooth and linear, which is what you get from electric motors. But if you're expecting snapback Tesla, crazy ludicrous mode in an SUV, no, that's not it. It's very smooth. It's it gives you more torque. It's a satisfying feeling. It's nice and quiet, all those sorts of things. But if it's just straight performance you want, that's not what this vehicle's about. This vehicle's about delivering economy, moving people around, doing it comfortably, and I think, mission accomplished. So I would suggest go and get a chance to drive any of the Hyundai Kia plug-ins, whether it's the Tucson, the Santa Fe, or this, because they're all going to have a similar kind of feel, except the Sorento might be just a little bit heavier. So just keep that in mind. So if you go to the dealer and they don't have one there to drive, but they do have a Santa Fe, try that one, because that'll give you a good idea of how it feels. John Wong. What non-luxury car companies are most reliable? I see some websites that say Kia and Mazda are most reliable than a Toyota. Is this fake news? What you might have been reading is some recent studies that came out. Like I believe that Consumer Reports chose Mazda overall as their sort of top brand. And there's been other studies from J.D. Power that has Kia at number 1 for initial quality. What I would suggest is that might be 1 or 2 years where they've been able to have, very strong numbers when it comes to quality. The one thing I'll say about Toyota is Toyota has very strong reliability year after year, decade after decade. So no car is infallible. Cars do break, even Toyotas. But the likelihood is you're going to buy a Toyota and it's going to work and you're not going to have that many issues with it. sometimes things happen. Now, I can't say that for every Mazda, and I can't say that for every Kia. There have been some quality studies that have come out recently that have been favorable to those two brands, but that is recent. Toyota has been doing it for decades, so take that to the bank of Toyota. Hey, Zach, can you tell us something about used electric vehicles as backup to power in terms of a blackout? So some brands do this where they allow you to reverse the charge out of your electric car into your home. There were stories about the big Texas, blackout that became with the ice storm that happened this past winter. So people who bought the Ford F-150 hybrids that have that power bank on board to run your tools and everything, they were hooking them up to their house and able to run the car as a generator and a power source back to the house. For example, the new Toyota Max, iForce Max or whatever hell it's called, the hybrid that for the new Tundra doesn't have that capability. One car brand that does have that as an option is Mitsubishi with the Outlander PHEV. Actually has a whole ecosystem that Mitsubishi has developed with sort of like a power wall, plugging into the car, sharing the energy with the house. So that is something that is going to be coming from more brands. Those are two that I know of right off the top of my head, but yeah, it can definitely be done. Depends on if the brand wants to do it or not. Harold Bigelow sending in a super chat. Thanks for being here. Oh, by the way, we have 350 plus people on board live just now with under 100 thumbs up. So we could get some thumbs up would be great. I think somebody was saying that that's the new algorithm driver for YouTube. I mean, it changes every 2 minutes, but there you go. Appreciate the thumbs up if you can give me one. All right, I gotta figure out where the hell I was again. Sorry, guys, I gotta figure out. When I do the super chat, I gotta go back and find it. All right, Telluride or XC90. The Volvo feels premium, something to be proud of having, a Kia badge. All right, well, that kind of answers your question. If that's what it's all about for you and you got to have the prestige badge, then maybe the Volvo's for you. I think that the Telluride has got to be one of the best vehicle introductions that I've witnessed in the last many years. I mean, they just absolutely nailed it with that product. But yeah, the badge is something some people can't get their head around. I mean, I always joke with Andrea and she says, I like it, but I just couldn't do the Kia badge. I'm like, yeah, depends on your priorities. So if it's a prestige badge is what floats your boat, then it's going to be a Volvo for you. That's a good question. How expensive would gas have to be for you personally to switch to hybrid or EV? Well, we're in a kind of different situation, is that driving cars is our business. So it's a business expense for us to buy gasoline. So it's not exactly like it's coming right out of our pocket every week and we're commuting to work. Our work is driving. So every time we're driving, that is an expense. Now, the other factor is we live right in the middle of the city of Vancouver. This, where I'm sitting right now, this house is 100 years old, and it's one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city of Vancouver. So everywhere we go is 5 minutes away. So we don't drive that much. Our Porsche Cayenne is going to be 4 years old in March, and it has about 25,000 kilometers on it. Okay, so the amount we drive is a lot less than other people. Like, we don't live in a far-flung suburb having to commute into the city and back every day. So for us, it doesn't. I mean, I don't want to be spending $5 a liter for gas. Nobody does. But no, it doesn't really matter for us right now. I'm not having to put on thousands of kilometers every month to commute to work. If I did, then I would certainly be looking at some alternative fuel sources. Now, the other thing is, also our primary vehicle is a diesel, and it gets incredible fuel economy. So we're really glad we have that vehicle, because we fill it up every 3 weeks. That's how much we fill it up. Stephen Wong, I am buying a new Corolla. Do you think I should get rims for my snow tires so changing will be cheaper? Yeah, you know what? I think the steel wheel is 15 inches, and you can get steel wheels cheap, cheap, cheap. Somewhere like Canadian Tire, Walmart, I think even Costco has them. So keep the wheels that you buy the car with to have your all season or summer tires on there. And you can buy just steel wheels. Even the tire shop will sell you steel wheels for that car and get some hubcaps for it, and away you go. I would do that. Changing tires twice a year is a pain in the ass. Changing wheels is a lot easier. Jim Carson, it seems Honda may be overcharging for the cars that will be coming out. Too bad. I was hoping to buy a 2022 Civic Si in blue. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing at Honda. Their pricing of their cars is wackadoodle. That Civic hatchback goes up to $35,000. What's the Si going to be? The base Civic sedan now starts at $25,000 Canadian, basically $24,500. I just rounded up to 25. That's just too much. Civics, used to be $15,000, $16,000, $17,000. Now it's 25 G's. And, they might have to rethink that. They got rid of the entry-level model. I just don't understand it myself. There you go. I have a Tesla Model 3 now, thinking of changing my wife's SUV to full electric. There you go. What are your thoughts on the Corolla for space? Can I fit my 14 and 6-year-old kid? Yes. The Corolla has a big back seat. It's surprisingly big. And I can vouch for this because recently we were in Montreal, and Andrea and I were there with our friend Brian Chow from Everyday Reviews, and we shared an Uber. We dropped a car off, and we had to go a short distance, a 10-minute drive from where we dropped the car off to the Montreal terminal, the Pierre Elliott Trudeau airport. And we ordered an Uber, and up pulled a Corolla, and we all got our luggage in the back. There was 3 carry-on bags, 2 camera bags, so there was 5 pieces of luggage in the trunk, and then 3 of us in the back seat, and surprisingly roomy. I mean, we were not luxuriating back there, but yeah, it's actually a surprisingly big back seat. CSAIR is saying the Civic hatchback from the USA is made in Indiana. I think that production has changed. That's why I was questioning. I believe until this year it was made in the UK. Sam Davis is bringing up a good point. BMWs won't supply touchscreens on 3 and 4 Series cars due to chips. That's crazy. Somebody else wrote to us and said the new X5, if you order an X5 today, you don't get touchscreen. It doesn't really bother me too much with BMW because they all come with the iDrive controller, which I like anyway. I don't use the touchscreen on the BMW cars. Andrea likes it. I don't, so I just use the controller. I think it's a better setup. And then they have the redundant buttons. So this is one thing that's going to be interesting to watch. There's going to be cars coming into the market trying to manage the chip shortage that are going to be decontented. So in order to get the cars off the line and onto dealers and into driveways, they're really choosing things that they are going to take out of the car. And in BMW's case, they're getting rid of the touch sensitivity on the screen. Like I said, I don't think it bothers me, but what's that going to do to resale value of these cars, like all the cars that are coming with chips missing, features gone, in the next 3 or 4 years when they all come up for sale in the used market? Is this a batch of cars that people aren't going to want? Is this a batch of cars that are going to be worth less than everything else? I don't know. But my advice is, if you don't need to get a new car, wait. Wait till all of this passes. I mean, this too will pass, and we will get back to a more normalized environment. The chip manufacturers are trying to ramp up production. Car companies are trying to streamline production. So if I was waiting for a new car, I would wait maybe a little bit longer. And this is a follow-up. The car prices are high right now. Should we hold on to our buying plan? Yeah. Listen, most people have a car that's going to work. There are very few cars that are so bad that you can't drive them anymore. Like, I mean, that's really got to be an old, clapped out piece of crap, right? that you're going to send to the wreckers. Most people are driving cars that they're bored with. They want something new. It's time to get a new car. Let's get a new car, honey. But you know what? My advice is drive the car you've got, maintain the car you've got, and then wait for the car you want to come in. But don't buy it with less content than you want. Like, what was the car we had? It was the Grand Cherokee L, the new long wheelbase of the Grand Cherokee that we had. And the one we had a air suspension on that trim. But if you ordered one now, they didn't have air suspension in it. But they only gave you an $1,800 or $2,000 credit, considering that trim package was that much higher. That was not really the value of that, because in the used market, in 3 or 4 years, if one of those vehicles comes online and it doesn't have the air suspension in it, no one's going to buy it. They're going to say, I don't want one without the air suspension. That's the whole reason to have that trim. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. So my advice is don't do anything. April T just bought a Mazda CX-30. Do you think Mazda is worth it? I like Mazda products. We really like that car. I think it's a great product. The only issue with the back seat's kind of small, but if you don't use the back seat regularly, then away you go. I love this. Steve Mann. I have heard that Tesla is the best-selling car now in North America. No. The best-selling vehicle in North America is the Ford F-150. The next best-selling is probably a General Motors truck, followed by a Ram truck, followed by a Toyota truck. Trucks are the best-selling vehicles. Maybe the Model 3 is the best-selling car, but people aren't buying cars. They're buying utility vehicles. I missed a super chat here. Considering PHEV and electric coming up and fast, do you think a good V6 such as a GLE AMG 53 will hold their value in the next 3 to 5 year window? Yeah, I think they will, because especially if you're they're not selling, not so much that one with the V6, but they're not selling any V8 equipped AMG cars for 2022 in North America. The only vehicle that's going to have a V8 equipped AMG engine will be the S-Class, because they just launched that car. So if you think a used Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon is expensive now, that thing is going to hold its value like crazy, because you can't get one. I'm hearing they're going for $100,000 over MSRP, because they're just not for sale. So is that going to be the case with the V6 AMG cars? Maybe. Things are going to be changing quickly in the next few years. So I think there's always going to be an appetite for unique and fun cars. And that certainly is a nice one, the GLE. Harold Bigelow sent in the picture of his Thunderbird earlier. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's very nice of you. And we have another super chat here from N77UA. Appreciate that. That's very nice of you. And another one from Brawley. Is 2021 WRX 18-inch Brembo's leather worth it for 37,000 Canadian? I would not get that car personally. I would wait for the new WRX. The existing WRX is really quite dated. You notice that it's an older platform and it's loud. Of course, you want it to be loud, but it doesn't feel very sophisticated. The new one's going to be so much better. Hey, listen, if you like the car and you think it's a load of fun to drive, which it is, then yeah, go for it. But I'm not here to tell you that it's the one I would choose. I would wait for the new WRX to come, because the new WRX is going to drive so much better. Looks not that good, but I think it's going to drive incredibly well. All right. We got up to 187 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. There's always one of you. Thank you for that. That's so nice of you. We're all done. If I don't read out your question, don't worry. I do read them all after the fact. Thanks to everybody. We'll be back next Sunday. We're going to be driving the GTI, the Golf R, and the Tiguan this week. There'll be videos of that. Tomorrow, the Corolla Cross drops. Then in the middle of the week, it's the Corolla Cross Subaru Crosstrek comparison. At the end of the week, the Mini 5-door, which we had a load of fun driving. Then we have other vehicles in the line. There's lots of cars coming. So thanks to everybody. Have a great week, and we'll chat to you next time. Bye now.